Thank you, everyone, and welcome to our substance abuse event. This is a personal story that will be shared today by our colleague, Brian Shellock, and his son, Gabe Shellock. I want to thank the co-sponsored event today for the Interabilities CAN and the Olympus Be Well program. I appreciate everyone who was involved in planning and participating in this event, especially to Brian and Gabe for being so open and vulnerable to share their story with us today. I can't thank them enough, sincerely. Lewis, if you can go ahead and play a video, we're going to go ahead and play a video first, and then I will come back and introduce Brian and Gabe, and we will go from there.
Hi, my name is Brian Shellock. My son, Gabriel Shellock, is a senior now at Colby Academy. He started in October of 2019. The first time that I found out that Gabriel had a substance abuse problem and really a depression problem to the extent that he really has it was a night in October of last year. It was about 10 o'clock at night. We have an alarm in our house, and all of a sudden the alarm went off. My wife went down and just kind of reset it, and she came back upstairs and she had Gabe by the shirt, and she said, I think Gabe's high right now. And in looking at him, his eyes were as red as could be, and he was not himself.
It was a really big school. It was easy to slip away with the crowd, which is exactly what I did. And if you hang out with the wrong crowd, wrong people, it's going to get you into stuff, which is exactly what happened with me. And I got into marijuana at first, and then it started off there.
When we were first going through the hospitalization with Gabe, where we found the substance abuse, we really didn't know where to go. The hospital itself had a few outpatient services that they had recommended as far as following up with that do dual diagnosis of mental health and substance abuse. They actually had said, hey, did you hear about the Colby Academy? They might be a really good fit for you as well.
When I first came here, I did not want to be here at all. I was angry, upset, annoyed, confused, wanted to go back to my old ways. I was completely against it, and I was just infuriated. And I actually ended up saying, after my time coming here and checking out the place the night of, I told my dad I'd rather go to prison than be here.
He had gotten to a point where he absolutely hated the idea of coming to Colby the first day. He came home from that first interview and really just kind of taking a tour of the school, and it was a very, very bad night. He did not want to go. He was in a situation where he could sit in the back of the class, in a class of 30, 35 kids, and not be noticed. He could be on drugs and not be noticed. The teacher would not notice this. But just a short time later, and I'm talking just a few months later, this child loved going to Colby Academy. And that's not something, that you just hear of, that a child loves going to his high school.
My recovery is going well. My clean day is the 18th? 13th. So it's been over 100 days now, and they've been here for me this whole time. They've been helping me. They've been there for me when I needed to talk through the darkest times, through pretty much anything, and they've helped keep me clean, which is the goal, right?
If I could say something to the parents that are interested in looking at the school or having thoughts about calling up, absolutely do so. Just come in, take a tour, meet with Mr. Petrozelli, meet with some of the staff here, and just have that conversation. And inside of you, I can guarantee you will have a peace about sending your child here.
I just wanted to take the time to read something that I wrote beforehand, and just some thoughts about Colby. So, what got me here? Last October, I got caught high and my drug use was revealed. I was then brought here to Colby Academy. At first, I was angry and hated it, but then with open arms, I was welcomed into Colby. It was like a second home and family. The teachers were extremely supportive and helped me through hard times. And now fast forward into when Corona hit. I was in a dark and horror-filled hole. I had attempted taking my life 3 times. The third was the worst. I had overdosed and my family was unsure if I'd make it. But going through all that, the hospitals, times out, attempts, recovery, you know who was with me, arms wide open the whole time? My Colby family. Am I glad I was enrolled here? Hell yes. Without Colby, where I am today, I could very well be in the ground rotting. So thank you, Colby. Thank you, Mr. Petrozelli. Thank you, Mrs. Hout. Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Thank you, Mrs. Ferry. Thank you, Mrs. Kaminsky. And thank you, Sister Bernard. And thank you, Eli, and for everyone that's helped me along my path. I love you all, and I love Colby Academy. Thank you for making the right choice and putting me here. I wouldn't be where I am today, and I could very well be dead.
So I don't know about all of you, but that video gives me chills no matter how many times I watch it. So we figured it was only appropriate to share that to kick off the event again. So I just want to let everyone know, if you do have questions, you are able to ask them anonymously, or you can submit by your name. Use the feature that is the little question mark that you'll see at the bottom of the screen for the live event. And we will have a Q&A section at the end to go ahead and answer any questions that will be submitted to Brian and Gabe. So I want to intro today, start with Brian. So Brian is our colleague here at Olympus. He is the Senior Manager for Product Security and Data Privacy. He's responsible for overseeing the product security and data privacy operations programs within the America. He's been with the company for just under 5 years, was originally in charge of running the IT security program. Brian and his wife, Michelle, have 3 children, Gabe, who is with us today, Tori, and Tyson. And he is a huge fan of sports, and it's a big part of their family. So thank you, Brian, again, sincerely for joining us today and for, being the star of the show. Gabe Shellock is Brian's son. So Gabe is 17. He's a senior at Colby Academy, as was referenced in the video there. It's a recovery high school located in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, close to the Center Valley office. Gabe loves writing music, producing songs, playing sports, especially baseball, and being a goofball with his family dog. Gabe's looking forward to attending college next year, where he hopes to expand on his love for music production and media design. Thank you again, Brian and Gabe, from the bottom of my heart. I know I appreciate it. I know I've had notes sent to me, people appreciating, this topic and that we're talking about this. So I attribute that all to you and being open and honest, and I'll turn it over to Brian and Gabe.
All right, we're on. Well, thank you very much, Kristen, and thank you for to everybody in the can here that has given us the ability to speak our voice and speak Gabe's voice, and hopefully, as we've stated in the past, when we made that Colby video and when we approached Olympus and potentially focusing on this in one of the can sessions. It's, if we can help one person, we've done our job. We've gone through a lot. Gabe's gone through a lot over the last year. Our family's gone through a lot, and we hope to share some of that with you today. But the book doesn't end there, so we're here to hopefully help others now at this point. I think I don't think we've ever watched that video together, have we?
No.
Oh my God, there's some times where we're looking at each other like, oh, what are we doing here? But it's about on par for I have the son that says hell yeah in a Catholic school video. So that sounds about right. But we can certainly go into that and answer as many questions as needed. One thing I did want to say, and I'll reiterate it later on when we answer some of the questions and answers, please feel free. We're very transparent at this point. Please don't feel embarrassed or think that you can't ask a question. That's why we're here. So, please do if you have one. So I think what we were talking about a little bit is just taking a step back and filling in some more of the details from that story and what happened here in our family. And then from there, how some of the resources came to play and how they came into our lives, and hopefully share some information for somebody that might be going through this with a child, with somebody in the extended family or a close friend, etc. It's insane the amount of people that when you talk to, or when I talk to, or I'm sure when you talk to, they say, yeah, I have this person, or I know this person. It's very rare do you talk to a person and they're like, wow, that must be tough. I don't know what you're going, I don't know anybody like that. It affects so many people in one way or another. I think I was ignorant for sure. A year ago, thinking drugs and substance abuse and the issues that come from it would never touch my family. We had no reason to think that it would. So it's something that over the last several months, the last year, it's been a journey where there's been a lot of days where I didn't know what the next 2 hours would bring. I didn't know what the next day would look like, what school would look like, what 6 months later would look like. I didn't know the resources to go through, and my hope is, as a parent that has gone through it, is I don't want another parent to go through that if they don't have to. If I can share that and share that this is something that we can talk about, that this is something that happens. It happens a lot, and it shouldn't be swept under the rug, you shouldn't have to be left to figure everything out on your own. So that's why I'm here today. And Gabe, he's a goofball. He is. That's how I would probably describe him as best as I can. But he's also probably one of the bravest people I know. And he has embraced this many months ago when going into Colby Academy and doing the commercial for them, and in talking today. I mean, I've never had to pull his leg at all to do any of this. I barely even had to ask him finish the sentence before he said, "Yep, let's do it." And that's a testament to him at this point, as far as really kind of owning it. And that's something that he and I talked about a lot when this first came out and you first started Colby Academy, and then after some of the regressions that we'll talk about, we kept with this conversation of, this is your story, man. This is your chapter in this book right now, and it's a pretty crappy chapter for sure, but it's not the end of the book, and there's a lot more chapters to go, and we're hoping that there's a really good story when it comes at the end. So he's been brave enough to talk through this, and again, please feel free. I have not asked you in any way, shape, or form, or begged you to come and talk here. He is more than willing. So he's got a great heart and just wants to help others now through this as well. So anything you want to say before we really get into the story, or?
Like you said, anything's up for grabs. I really don't mind. I'm very happy to share and give advice.
So in the story that you just heard, the video, it was. It's been a little over a year now since we stumbled upon the drug use that Gabe had been doing, and it had been for months. And it's, as a parent, it is something where I think it's something like when you get to a teenager, when you get to a 15, 16, 17-year-old, you almost start feeling you know what, they're old enough now, they definitely need their independence, and I don't have to be checking up on them too much. And you know, that's a typical moody, you know, teenage kind of thing to be doing what they're doing, and to, you know, go into their room, hide out, and you know, not be seen, and not be heard. And if I could take one thing back and through all of this, it would be changing that mindset. And it's something that I hope that I can instill on some of the parents that are on this call today, is to really change the mindset, if that's something that you're in, of you know, my 16-year-old, my 15-year-old, it's what they do. It's teenagers, right? I allowed it to happen, and months went by of you know, Gabe being in a deep depression, and I wrote it off as he's a teenager. You know, he's goes through ups and downs. He, you know, he has his friends on Snapchat that he's on video. One day he's on all night long. The next day, you know, he's on something else, and it's just kind of like, he's a teenager. It is what it is, and I'll get my son back, you know, once they mature and they're in their 20s or something like that. But you know, going through the phone the night that he got caught, it was 4 hours I went through his phone, finding stuff, and it was one of the toughest 4 hours, because it was just such a reality check that I went through as a parent, a guilt, a failure. You know, how could I allow this to happen in my household? And you know, I thought we were pretty strict. I mean, not, you know, like a prison or anything, but I feel like we ran a pretty good ship. We knew what our kids were doing. You know, we didn't allow them to do crazy things. Man, I was wrong. I was totally wrong. And I think part of what happened was because I had just assumed that, you know, he's a teenager. You know, I'll see him at Thanksgiving when he comes out of his room. You know, I think what that showed him was Dad doesn't care. You know, that Dad doesn't want to know. That Dad doesn't have that time right now. When if we just talked, I think so much could have been averted. I think some of the clearly depression is a whole other topic, and something that affects so many in its own ways too. Gabe's our story starts with you know, Gabe and I were pretty much by ourselves. I was a single dad with him, and for, you know, 8-9 years. It was pretty much Gabe and Brian against the world, and Mom was in the picture a little bit, but here and there. And I think, you know, along the way, that mindset became it was really great, because you know, it was kind of like you could talk about anything, and like, this is going to be good, and I'm going to do whatever I can as a parent to make him come into a great life. And so I think I was naive to go through and think that I could solve all the problems, you know, and I think that's really important to know as a parent, is sometimes you're not there to solve problems. You're there just to listen. And I think that was the missing component for a long time with Gabe and I, is it was either a dad tries and solve the problem, which is usually something that is not wanted. You know, it's more or less that he just wants somebody to talk to listen, to really get it. And the new person on Snapchat, or the new person, you know, on FaceTime that day or that week, isn't the person that's going to really be the true person to listen to, or to hear that person that really needs the help. They need it from a loving person in their life, such as a parent or a brother, sister, friend, whoever it may be. But that depression is really what kind of spiraled into the drug use. And I'll let you talk about that a little bit. and maybe kind of go through, you know, where your mindset was at in the last year and a half or so.
So the depression, it's been there for, I would say, somewhat of a while, and it really hit hard starting in freshman year. And that year I kind of just went through the year through the motions. I hadn't tried anything yet then. But towards the end of freshman year, on the last day of school, is when I first tried marijuana, and I loved the fact that it would just take my mind off of everything, and that kind of made me start using it to self-cope. And then it went from that, and then beginning of sophomore year, it was like, it wasn't so just a few times in a year. It was like, okay, maybe a few times every month. And then after that, it just went from, okay, every day I'm going to do this. And I think that if there would have been more communication and awareness of what was going on, I could have been down a whole different path. And like, I was going to people who I knew for maybe about 2 weeks, a month, and trying to like just let everything out to them, and then they would end up just leaving and not wanting anything to do with me because like it was just too much for them, especially just meeting them almost. And that made me think that I was like a burden, a problem, like nobody really wanted to hear from me, and that I should just deal with it on my own, or maybe not even be here. And so I was at first scared to harm myself or anything like that, so I stuck with drugs to take my mind off of it. And then I did that through beginning of junior year as well. And then one night in October, I snuck out to see a girl, and I went to her house and I smoked with her, and then I came back high as heaven itself. And I came in, the alarm system, I guess it was broken or something, but I had the door closed, locked up, everything, the alarm wasn't on then, and then I went to turn it back on, and it went like 30 seconds. It was like doing like the countdown before it's turned on, and then when it finally activated, the alarm started going off saying that the door was open when it wasn't. And that's when my stepmom came down and like was questioning me about why I wouldn't turn off the alarm, and then noticed after I tried lying a bunch of times that I was high. And then my dad came down after she brought me upstairs and started questioning me a lot as well, and I didn't know what to do because I wasn't like in a sensible head state. And I tried to quickly be like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom, and I was trying to like hide my phone like in my pocket because like I was sitting on it, and they noticed me trying to sneak it into my pocket, and they were like, no, you could give that to us, because I was gonna try to hide everything. And then they took it, and I just ended up not going to the bathroom. And then they started going through it and finding things, and found that I left the house, stuff like that. And after about like an hour or two, my dad was mad at me for everything that was going on, and he told me just to go to sleep, and then he stayed up going through it. And then I went to school the next day and got pulled out halfway through, and my dad showed me everything that he found, and he said, either you're going to be going to the hospital voluntarily, or we're going to call the police to come get you and take you. And I was trying to resist, and then I just went voluntarily so that they wouldn't be involved. And they ended up drug testing me and everything there, and it all came back positive, obviously. And then they suggested outpatients to go. They didn't suggest inpatient, and that's when I started going to Colby Academy, which at first, like the first couple of days, I did not want anything to be a part of it, because it was weird to me. Not enough people. I couldn't do anything, couldn't skip class, couldn't leave the school and come back later. And I was just like visible to everyone. And it was like, for me, it was like, no, I don't want to do this. And then after that, it started warming up to me. And once I started realizing how much of like a family it was, like a second family, and how much support they were showing, and how interested they were in like what's going on with me and genuinely being there, I started to really like it. And that's where the recovery really began. And I then was at school doing that for a while, made it to like over 100 days clean. And then when coronavirus came and just swept the floor, I was at home most of the time. My phone was unrestricted, like finally after months since it went through. And one of my old dealers texted me like, hey, do you want to get this, so-and-so, that? And I was feeling like very depressed, and like I still couldn't talk because I was afraid of being a like burden to my dad or anyone. So I was like, you know what, I'm at home, life's a mess, why not? And I relapsed. And then that very day, they smelled that in the house, and then I was being asked about it, and then I talked to him about it, and he ended up bringing me to the hospital because I was telling him how I didn't feel like I was gonna be able to stay safe during the night from myself, because I thought I would have harmed myself, because I was obviously very upset for relapsing almost after having close to 5 months clean. Six. And then I was in that hospital for about a week. I got out, everything was taken again, and I was very angry at that and just angry at the situation that was going on and depressed about it. And then I tried just saying, I'm out of here, I'm leaving, there's nothing you can do about it. And then I got into a huge fight with them, and that ended up to me and him fighting, and something was brought up, and I was like, I'm just gonna go kill myself now then. And I tried to go inside quickly to do something, and then he came in and tackled me to the ground, basically.
Yeah, it was so taking a step back, I mean, so this was 6 months after first finding out everything, going to Colby Academy. He had a job. He went to Narcotics Anonymous, NA, routinely for 2 months. And, there's a 16, 17-year-old kid who's in a group of 30 and 40 people that are in their midlife, that have lost their children, that have, gone bankrupt and things like that. And he went through that religiously to try and show that, he is taking the recovery steps seriously and owning it. Again, he did great at his job. Everything seemed to be going so well. He started getting some of his things back, which, as a parent, obviously, once everything happened, his phone was gone, his video games are gone. Like, you're gonna focus on what truly matters in life at this point, and it's not going to be, somebody on Snapchat, or it's not going to be, Fortnite for a couple hours. You're going to focus now on the main priorities in life. And there was some resistance to that, clearly. I mean, you're a teenager that's going through everything, and you have this life, and then all of a sudden it's taken away. I mean, it was natural to get some of that. It was very tough on my part to keep that foot down, though, and that's something that I really want to stress and to help other parents out there is, I told him a few times, I'm not here to be someone you like at this point. I'm here to be tough with you because I love you. It's not, I'm just gonna, there's so many times where it was, his younger stepsister started driving and Gabe's permit expired because we took that away because we couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't be high driving, and that's tough. That's tough to see things like that. It's tough when, it's tough to keep that pressure on. But I stress that it's necessary. You know, it really is. The Colby Academy, you know, I fell in love with it immediately, but that's a parent's, you know, a view. That's knowing him and knowing what he was accountable for himself, and that was different than anything he's had in his previous high school. He didn't have to be accountable. You know, he couldn't just sit there anymore. He could not just hide. And that's why he hated it, and that's why I loved it as a parent, you know. And the people that are specifically at this school, they're absolute angels on earth. I mean, every single one of them have just impacted him in such a way that it is just unbelievable. And so everything was going in the right direction. And like you said, then COVID came and everything shut down. His job shut down. So he didn't have that as an outlet to get out of the house and, you know, show some responsibility. School went to Zoom. And for somebody that's going through substance abuse, addiction, depression, there's nothing like in person, just, you know, being in person with somebody and talking, getting a hug, you know, being able to just truly be there rather than over the internet. And you know, he had counseling sessions, you know, with the counselors and everything else, and it's still just, it wasn't the same. And then, you know, then he got depressed about a situation with a friend and relapsed. And then it became such a spiral, because then he was depressed that he relapsed because he was doing so well and he's a failure. And to hear your son say that he doesn't want to be a burden to you, he doesn't want to be a burden to the family anymore, it's heartbreaking on your end, because all you want to do is be there for them. And you can't get in their head at that point. It's something that it takes a long time to go through and recover from. And you know, it was 3 hospitalizations. You know, everything he said was completely accurate. The first time we took him to the local hospital here, you had inpatient there for a couple of days, 4 or 5 days or so. You know, it was kind of how to cope, things like that, on how to some tools to cope with on your own when you get depressed.
I can start picking back up where I was if you want.
Yeah, it's yeah, go ahead.
But what I was saying before, and also before that, a little bit more about what caused me to get depressed again, other than not being in person for the things with the friends. It was a girl that I had met through a friend, hadn't met her in person. I was dating her for like, I wouldn't even call it that at this point, for like 2 weeks, and all over the phone. And she had, I don't mean to sound rude, but she had her own kind of problems, and she wasn't very secure about herself, and she would take everything out on me. And at one point, she was just like yelling at me and everything, and then I was like, I don't think I deserve this, to be yelled at like this. I don't want to do this anymore and be with you. And she started really saying very hurtful things. She was like, this is why everyone's going to leave you. This is why nobody wants to be with you, why you can't be loved. You should just go back to drugs. Maybe you'll overdose and my dad will find you since he's a cop. And it was just, it really brought me down. I did not know what to do at that point, and that's what led to the first hospitalization after the relapse, because that made me go very downhill, and then the relapse even more downhill, to a point where I didn't know if I would be safe by myself. So, and after that hospitalization for about a week in inpatient, I got out. Like I said, a few days later, I got into a fight with him and Michelle.
His stepmom.
My stepmom, yeah, Michelle. And I was just trying to like leave, run away, like go somewhere else, stay with a friend, because I was so upset like with what was going on and how like my life was taken away again almost. And after that, like I said, I got tackled, and then Michelle called the police, and they came, and they were questioning me, and then I got taken in an ambulance to the hospital again, and I was put in
That's fine. My youngest just came home from school. He wants to say, bye. We'll talk. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. And then I was in another hospital for about 2 weeks almost. And after that, I was out again for about 2 weeks. I was trying to make it seem like I was doing well, and then I got in my head again, thinking that I wasn't good enough and just getting down on myself because I heard one of my friends that I made at a previous hospital, her friend overdosed, and then she tried killing herself and was in another hospital. So I just felt like nothing's going to work, everything's hopeless. And then that led me to 2 days later asking to go to CVS with my stepsister. And when I was there, I stole triple C's, or you could call it Corticidin, the cough, congestion, and cold pills. And I took 18 of them when I got home, and that is when I overdosed and was brought to the third hospital. And when they first asked me about it, like, what's going on, you're having like a bad reaction to something, and then they brought me downstairs and questioned me, and I just told them right away what I did, and I just kept apologizing for it. I remember on the way there, but a lot of the stuff I can't remember on the way there because I was so just out of it. And I remember when I was like finally like back like in a sensible state, I was just at the hospital. I had what's the tube called?
Yeah, throw that.
Oh, all right. Never mind on that part. I was at the hospital. I woke up and I was just like IVs in me, and they had to like administer something to fight the overdose. And for a good amount of time, my dad, grandmother, stepmom, everyone thought that I was gone, dead. And that I imagine how upsetting that was for them, considering how upsetting it was for me to hear how that made them feel. But anyways, after that, I went to another hospital for about 3 weeks, almost that time, and for about 3 weeks, and I met a counselor named Ralph there. He helped me out a lot, and I got out of there, and I came home. I got out on my birthday, came home like at the end of the day on my birthday, and I found out that my room was moved from downstairs, where I was like isolated, a bigger room, to upstairs, like so I was more visible. That wasn't easy to adapt to at first. And then later that day, everyone showed how much they cared by driving by for a little birthday parade for me, and it just made me feel so cared about, and like, wow, maybe I really do matter. Just seeing all the people that I love there. And from there, I didn't really have anything at first, but as I slowly was getting better, doing counseling, using healthy coping skills, talking to him, and then I started gaining stuff back, like being able to like hang out with my little brother, play video games, and then after that, school started up again. I got a job, and then I got my phone back a little bit after that, restricted, and then like a month after that, it was unrestricted, and doing well. I'm doing really well now, and I'm just happy to still be here because I very well could not be, and things really do get better. This isn't like something that you're doomed. There's nothing you can do about it, nothing that you can do for someone about it, because like a year ago, I thought, man, I'm never going to be driving at this point. I'm never going to be a normal person, never going to have friends again, never going to be able to leave the house. And tonight, after this, at some point, we're going to be going to get my permit renewed and start that up again. And I have a healthy relationship with a girl. Her name is Allie. She's really helping me through this and very understanding and supportive. And that, plus the family, plus my Chloe family, plus actual supportive friends, that just makes everything so much better. And I can say that this is an escapable event. It's not something that is forever, and it's something that may be looked upon over sometimes, but it's very real and very hard to get through. But with the support of others, it definitely can be done. I mean, I'm here right now, and I did it, and I think if I can do it, anyone can do it.
So that it's a really important point that he just touched on with the support, and I think, you know, I go back to something I said about not being somebody that's here to be your, you know, somebody that's really likable. It's somebody that has to put, you have to put what's best for him forward instead of, well, is he going to really, you know, what about going to a school with, you know, a uniform? What about, you know, not having his phone, things like that. He went through 3 hospitalizations. The third time we could have said, you know what, first 2 didn't work. It's going to be the same damn thing over again, and it is what it is. But you can't give up, you know, and I've heard several times from people that have continued to go through recovery that all it takes is that one person. It's like one person will spark something. And if you're not that person, I wasn't that person for him, but I continually, as a parent, tried putting him in a situation then that he was around people that might have been that spark. And he mentioned Ralph in the third part. That third hospital was in Philadelphia, and you know, it was an hour and a half away, and you know, he had to be transported by ambulance because of protocol, and that was a really tough day to see your son walk out. You know, and why don't you go close the door then? Sorry, our dogs. You had a, you know, I walked out and you see my son going out, you know, into an ambulance, and it's kind of like, I don't know where this is going to lead, you know, and I never knew about this hospital. It was the only one in Pennsylvania that was open, a recovery center that had a bed available, and it was after 5 days of him sitting in the hospital waiting for a bed to recover. It's incredible the amount of people that this is affecting, and when I looked at the reviews on this hospital, I was like, what am I doing as a parent right now? The reviews were absolutely terrible. I mean, it was not a good place. It wasn't your comfy, you know, little place. It was scary, you know. Yeah. And he found the one person in that place, and it was a real wake-up call for him. And you don't know where you're going to find that one person, but as a parent, what I'm here to say is, you have to keep giving them a chance. Because if you don't give him that chance, he's not going to give himself that chance. He's done, and you have to. You have to. It's tough. It's tough not being the one that can solve everything, but you have to provide him with as much resources as you possibly can. So. I know we're already 45 minutes into this. We haven't even gotten to questions, and I know there's some really good ones. So I certainly want to leave time for that. But you know, I want to stress that from a personal level, both of us, you know, outside of Olympus, we are more than happy to continue a discussion with somebody that might be struggling, or somebody that might be intimately involved with somebody that's struggling. You know, it doesn't have to end here, and we will make ourselves available. So that's certainly something that I just want to put out there. But for sure, you know, there were a lot of really bad times. You know, I watched my son die in the hospital. I watched it. to what I thought. And, you know, I saw 4 or 5 doctors around him going crazy, you know, with what they can do to get his heart rate down, to get his blood pressure down, to, you know, it's something I would never wish on my worst enemy to go through. But like I said, that's his chapter. That's not his book. And we're here now, you know, he's here now on his path forward, and the path that you're put on isn't always the one that you think you're going to be put on. And I never thought this for sure, but you know what? It's the story at this point. And what we can get out there to other people is exactly what he just said. If he can do it, somebody else can do it. If I can be a parent that had to struggle through it, I know another parent can. You just have to be strong enough, and there are people out there, there are resources out there in your community, and I know this is all over, you know, communities in the United States, so I don't want to focus just on this one, but there are people out there in your community that are absolute angels, like there are at the Colby Academy. They're out there. They're trying to get the message out that they're there to help, but sometimes it takes, you know, it takes you also to go out and seek them as well. So so the message I could say for a parent or somebody that is going through this is just stay the course, stay with it. Tell your son, tell your daughter, tell your niece, nephew, whoever it might be, tell them you love them. You know, don't let that go, and just sometimes just go sit next to them and say, talk. I'm here to listen. That's all it takes. And you know, it's so frustrating on my end to know that that might have saved a lot, but you know, now it's hopefully helping others. So so with that, I mean, you know, I'm happy to answer questions or however we want to do that.
Yeah.
Hi, Brian. There are a plethora of comments and supports that you have received from your Olympus family, which for the sake of time, I'm going to skip over some of them, but I strongly suggest you read them because you have an outpour of love coming to you both. In regards to questions, there's a gentleman named Kyle who said he had been had the esteemed pleasure of working with your dad, Brian. So this is for Gabe. He's wondering what, Gabe, your feelings are about your old man now, today, and if you have anything special you want to share about the effort he's put in over this time. Keep up the good work and hope there are many good years ahead of you.
Thank you, Kyle. What do I think of you?
I don't know.
No, I'm just kidding. I think he's a great man, a great father, and I'm very thankful to have him and pushed me through all this and stayed there as a stable support. I mean, I do think he is a nerd sometimes, but he's a very good man, and I'm very thankful to have him in my life.
Jody is asking, do you feel that using marijuana led to the elevated use of stronger drugs?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it was a pathway, because once that felt like it was not working, I was like, gotta try something new.
And you know, this is something, how easy was it to get? I mean, did you, you know, that's the shocking thing. It still blows my mind of how prevalent and easy it is to find this stuff. And not just, you know, vaping the THC, you know, when we found all this, I knew vaping was bad. You know, I don't smoke or anything like that. It's like, you know, vaping's the same thing and yada, yada. I had no idea that they can get this stuff and pure THC marijuana that's just out there, you know, at parks. And it was insane to learn about all this stuff. But one thing I would recommend from a parental area is if you don't have it or don't think it's affecting, I would still read up on it, still be knowledgeable about it.
Great, thank you. Gabe, thanks so much for sharing your story. This is from John. What did your friends think when you started to go to Colby, and what do they think now?
At first they were confused and were like, "Oh, why are you going there? That's over the top. That's dumb," stuff like that. And through time, the fake and bad influencing friends have been weaved out of my life, and the ones that were supportive and really there, they are very happy that I went there and that I was able to get the recovery and help that I needed, because they knew I was going down a really dark path and they were telling me not to, and I just didn't listen. But with the help of Colby, it did. It helped me.
Great. This is an anonymous question. Gabe, thank you for sharing. Your dad said that he thought if he just talked to you earlier, that could have helped. Do you agree? What else do you think could have helped?
I completely agree. I believe if I would have just maybe opened up more, if I would have been around more and not so self-secluded and just like in social media 24/7 or in my phone, and I was like just around people more instead of being so engulfed in electronics and just being in my room like it was a little hut, like I was a hermit or something.
Yeah, and I want to point out, when I say, have a conversation with them, go sit next to them and just listen. It's not a one-time deal. It's not, I mean, kids are smart and teenagers are smart and they pick up. They don't want to, necessarily open up to you right off the bat. But if you continue to go back and continually show that, look, I'm here. When he came home from the hospitals and everything, we did what we call nightly check-ins, where before we went to bed, I would go down to his room or go up to his room and sit on his bed and say, talk about your day. What were the good things about your day today? What were the bad things? And then the bad things or the negative things, how can we work on them? How can we, what needs to be done? So it has to be followed up on. It has to be continual. Otherwise, it's kind of for naught.
Great. Gabe, this is another anonymous question. What advice do you have for teens that are experiencing peer pressure from friends?
I mean, my advice would be to do what your heart tells you, not what your brain and emotions are telling you, as in thinking that you're going to be cooler for it. And I would advise to just make the right choice. Like, if your grandmother was there, or your mom or dad, or someone that is very, like, a very wholesome person in your life, let's say, if they were there, would you be doing that in front of them? Would you want them to even know that you were thinking about doing it? And I'm sure for most people that's a no. And I would highly advise just to stay away from that. Say no, because it's really not worth it. I can tell you that myself. It's very, very much so not worth it.
It's a great segue to our next question. This is for you again, Gabe. Are there any signs to look out for, especially in teens that may be struggling with depression and/or substance abuse?
Signs to look out for, yeah, there definitely are some. You could kind of see it in our eyes. You could see the sadness, or you could see like something's off, like a drug involved. Just being secluded by yourself and staying like in your room, not doing anything, not like being with people, not really opening up or talking about your day, and like trying to avoid questions about your day, or like pushing it off. Hanging out with like new people like almost every day that like seem suspicious. And I mean, yeah, that's some pretty big signs. There definitely are signs.
And the last that from a parent aspect, I would say is, if you're talking about kids that are under 18 and then they're in your house and they have a phone, you have every right to go through that phone, to double check on things like that at any point in time. And it's, for many people, I think, and I kind of tended to get into that attitude of, he's 16, he's 17, he can have his phone, like I'll stay out of it. I probably don't want to see half the stuff that he's looking at anyway. But there's almost a duty that you have to do, that you're a service that you're doing to your kids by just letting them know that, every once in a while, I'm not going to let you know when, but I'm just going to come to you and say, hand me the phone over, so that they can't go through and delete and tidy things up. It's that expectation has to be there. Otherwise, it is a whole world that is hidden from you that you will not know about.
Now, Brian, you touched upon that moment where it was get in the car or you're going to be forced to go somewhere. But if a situation like that doesn't arise for a parent, do you have any advice on how those parents could maybe start those conversations that could be reserved and maybe afraid to have those conversations with their children?
Yeah. I mean, definitely, it all goes back to just starting it. There's no perfect message that you can give. There's no perfect way to have it. I think the main point is just do it. There's so much where so many times where something was put in place or restricted, or a new way of life was had, and it was just kind of like, so the back of the parent's mind is like, is this overkill? Is this too much? Is this, what am I doing right now? And things like that. You've got to fight through that. And as far as, somebody that you might not be able to do that, and you just kind of approach it, maybe just tell them you love them, just say, you know what, I know how tough life can be for a teenager. I've been there. I know how tough it could be, or whatever. And just let them know that you love them, and just let them know that that they matter, and that you're there to listen to. And you might not get that response that you want the first time, or the second time, or the third time. But I go back to my earlier point of, you got to keep up with it, and sooner or later they're going to get the hint at that point.
Right. Now we have one more anonymous question. Can Gabe elaborate on the progression from the THC to other drugs and what those may have been? And also, what as parents can we do to be more aware?
So it was first THC, and then I started drinking a lot. And then after that, I was inquiring about getting acid and Percocets, and I didn't end up getting those, but one thing I did get was codeine, and that was where it really took off and got bad. And when I did that, I'm pretty sure I came close to overdosing then too, accidentally, and it just went from THC, alcohol, pills, and just worse and worse and worse. I mean, all of them are bad. I'm not saying that any of them are good to be doing, but it just increased. And I think some signs would be to, like, maybe odd behaviors. No, definitely odd behaviors. Avoiding like eye contact, avoiding being around and visible. Like it's like there's a very strong smell of like cologne or Febreze or something, and like at a weird, awkward time, and like you could smell it's covering something.
Oh my God! It was oh Dad, it's my shoes stink. It Febreze my room. It's every excuse in the book, but at some points, sometimes suspicions just is good enough. When it comes to things like this. Sometimes, but yeah.
Well, that's great. Thank you for answering all of those questions. As I mentioned before, there are a bunch of amazing comments and outpour of love and support to both of you that I suggest you read through. And I believe that wraps up our time for today. Thank you both for sharing your story. It has been eye-opening to many, it has been heart-wrenching to many, but it's also extremely inspirational. And we hope that you keep up your communication and your support of each other and getting through this and helping others. I mean, like you said before, if it's one person that you get to touch, that's one more person that's in a better place. So that's beautiful. Thank you, the Interabilities Can and the Wellbeing Committee. And thank you for everyone who's participating.
Thank you very much.
I'm very happy that I was able to talk in front of all these people and help them with information and just spread awareness. And it was a high honor to be able to do that. I'm very appreciative.
Well, God bless you both.
Thank you.
Too.